Khan Academy Algebra, we're doing systems of equations, and this section is elimination strategies. So this is getting us kind of thinking about how we can manipulate the equations, whether we can combine them or we need to multiply a row first by a number before we combine them to eliminate a variable. So they kind of give us a system of equations, and then they give us some choices to decide what we want to do to try to get our coefficients to match up so that we can eliminate something. So we'll do this problem, but actually let's first just do a couple quick notes kind of on something very similar. So we come down. I just want to show you the different things that can happen because there's kind of varying levels of difficulty as you go through here. So on the first one, which of the strategies would eliminate a variable? So I'm looking at it, and the x coefficients don't line up. There's a 5 and a 4. If I add it, I would get 9. If I subtract, I get 1. So I can't eliminate x's. But with the y's, since one is a positive 3 and one is a negative 3, that's what I love to have happen. I'm always looking for opposite coefficients. Okay, I'm looking for that number in front of the x or the y to one be a positive, one be a negative, because I know if I add opposites, if I do 3 plus a negative 3, it's going to end up being 0. It's going to wipe itself out. So when I add these two equations together, I would end up with 9x equals 18, and these y's would cancel out. So that's and then now I would go on my move and start trying to solve the rest of the system. But in this section, all we have to do is identify that first step. So our step was we wanted to add these equations. So, and here's kind of something that tripped me up earlier. They say choose all the answers that apply. So sometimes there's more than one correct answer. So right now I know that 8 works. I know I could add the equations. Well, let's kind of come back in and test the other ones. What if we subtract the bottom from the top? Well, if we subtract these, we're going to get 1x. And then if we subtract my y's, so I have a positive 3 subtract a negative 3, well, that's going to end up being 6. So we're going to end up with x plus 6y equals 18. So that would not eliminate a variable. So I know that B is not the right answer. So you're out. Subtract the top from the bottom. So if I did the top from the bottom, well, that scenario would be 4x minus 3y equals 9. And then subtract the top from the bottom. And let's see what we get. Well, 4 minus 5x, that'd be a negative 1x, so we didn't eliminate x's. Now I have a negative 3 take away a positive 3. Negative 3 take away a positive 3. Well, when I combine here, when I do it, I do opposite, add the opposite. So that's going to give me a negative 6y equals 0. So that didn't work either. So the correct answer on this one is just A. All right, next example. Moving down. Which of these strategies would eliminate the variable? So let's kind of run through the options here. Multiply the bottom equation by 3 and then subtract the bottom from the top. Well, if I multiply the bottom equation by 3, I'm going to have 2x minus 6y equals 6. On the bottom, I'm going to have 18x minus 12y equals 6. And if I subtract the bottom from the top, well, that's going to give me a negative 16x. And my y's, that's a negative 6 subtract negative 12. So I add the opposite. Nope, not going to work. So A is out. Let's check out B. B says multiply the top equation by a negative 3. So multiply the top equation by negative 3 and then add them. Let's try that. If I multiply the top equation by negative 3, it's almost like you can think of the distributive property kind of. So I'm going to get a negative 6x, positive 18y, negative 18. And then they want us to add the two equations together. And I just copy the bottom down. Well, when I add them up, hey, I have some opposites here. A negative 6 plus a positive 6, that eliminates x. 18 plus a negative 4, well, that's going to come out to be 14. Adding the two equations is always easier than subtracting. That's why I always try to set it up that way. And negative 18 plus 2 is a negative 16. So yes, we could add the equation. So this one is definitely a right answer. Let's look down at the bottom. It says multiply the bottom equation by negative 3 halves. My screen kind of cut out a little bit. So let me scroll down just a wee tad. So it says multiply the bottom equation by negative 3 halves and then add them. So I'm going to erase some of this stuff. So multiply the bottom by negative 3 halves and then add the equations. So let's see what we get. So on the top we have 2x minus 6y equals 6. Well, when I do a negative 3 halves times 6, a negative 3 halves times 6 over 1, well, that ends up being negative 18 over 2, which is just negative 9. So that's a negative 9x. And I don't know why you'd ever multiply a row by a fraction. I would never do that. But Khan Academy wants us to. So when I do this one, I have negative 3 halves times a negative 4 over 1. So that's 12 over 2, which would just be 6y. And then when I do my last piece, that's a negative 3 halves times 2 over 1, which is just negative 3. Well, now I've multiplied the bottom row by negative 3 halves. Now they want me to add these two equations. 2 plus a negative 9 is negative 7. A negative 6 and a positive 6 go away. So it looks like that did eliminate a variable. And the m would be here. So this one would work, although I would never use that method. It looks like A and B are the two correct answers for that one. All right, let's go check out the actual first question that we were looking at. So it says, which of these strategies would eliminate the variable in the system? So let's just kind of run through these really fast. So it says multiply the top equation by negative 4. So if I multiply them by negative 4, a negative 8x minus 32y equals 12. Remember, distribute all the way through. And then do the bottom. I have 3x plus 6y negative 4. Well, when I add those, nothing gets eliminated. I end up with negative 5x, negative 26y. So top answer, definitely A doesn't work. Let's try B. Multiply the top equation by 3. Multiply the bottom equation by 4. So we're multiplying both equations. Then subtract the bottom from the top. All right. Well, if I multiply the top by 3, I got 6x 24y equals negative 9. On the bottom, I have 12x plus 24y equals negative 16. Then it says subtract the bottom from the top. Well, 6 take away 12 is negative 6. Boom, right here. 24 take away 24. That does eliminate y. And then negative 9 minus a negative 16 would be a positive 7. So B works, but be careful. We got to check all answers that apply. So we need to try one more. So let's do this last one. Multiply the top equation by 3. Multiply the bottom equation by negative 2. And then add. All right, so we have 6x, 24y, negative 9. And then we have negative 6x minus 12y, positive 8. And then they want us to add, and yes, 6x plus a negative 6x will eliminate, and we would just end up with 12y equals negative 1. So it just goes to show you there are multiple ways to solve these problems. I try to always avoid subtracting the equations, and I try to multiply by the right number so that I can add opposites. So let's just check our answers here, B and C. Kind of scroll down. B, C. Beautiful.